Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen introduced herself by handing me a printout of the city rules. After that, ruined a bad roommate's life. And after that, am I the jerk for refusing baby items from another pregnant family member? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen loses her phone. But I just got it! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen introduced herself by handing me a printout of city rules. My husband and I bought our first home in May. Our yard and our neighbors' yards are all connected. Large lots, no fences, except a little creek that runs through the backyards with bridges across it. Also, the streets are all dead ends, so we have like 7 yards back to back. We have a 4-year-old dog who is 55 pounds of golden fluff. He is protective of our property, not aggressive, just will bark if you come into our yard. Our driveway is in the back, so he generally won't stray past the driveway line to the next door neighbor's yard. We decided to add another dog to the family a couple of months later. I work really hard to train my dogs, but puppies are just puppies sometimes. The dogs are never outside without me or my husband. We don't leave them unattended. Pup was learning her yard and boundaries, which takes a minute without a fence. Anyway, our neighbors directly on both sides of us are super friendly and have dogs that run around too. Diagonal to our backyard, about 1/2 an acre away, is this older couple that is always gardening. They have never waved or said hi or anything. One day I'm sitting out back with my dogs and my cousin and her dog. We played some fetch and started a fire going in the fire pit. All of a sudden, this old couple walked from around the house and down our driveway. Our big dog is barking at them, so I'm trying to quiet him. The couple just proceeds to hand me a printed out city ordinance paper and tells me my dogs are running at large and they will call the city to have them taken away. It clearly states on the paper that a dog is not deemed running at large if it A. is in the owner's yard, B. has permission to be in a neighboring yard, aka our next door neighbors don't care, and a few other things, of which we aren't violating. We are young and definitely not the fanciest of the neighbors, but we care deeply to respect and have a good relationship with the families on our block. Additionally, I'm a very easygoing person to talk to, so I tell them that the other 4 dogs run around and come to our yard, so are you going to report them? They said, "We just spoke to your next door neighbors and they hate your dogs." We talk to the next door neighbors every day. Their dog frequents our yard for visits, so I told the couple, if they, next door, have an issue with me or my dogs, they're welcome to come discuss it with me themselves. We have literally asked them multiple times if it's cool if our dogs fetch occasionally in their yard and they don't care. They continue to argue with me about the ordinances and I'm trying to politely tell them I am not breaking any codes and if they want to call the city, they can go ahead and do that. Basically, it takes forever for the conversation to get to the actual issue, which turns out is that they have a little pond in their backyard. And one time, my pup got near their pond. I tell them, "I'm so sorry my dog got near your pond. I will make sure she doesn't go to your yard again." They won't leave my driveway and continue to spew off complaints about it. I'm starting to get a little shaky. I don't care for unnecessary conflict, and I was getting angry, which I don't often. I'm just saying over and over again that I'm sorry the puppy came near their pond. They then tell me that my big dog was out all night barking, and they're going to complain to the city about it. He is my shadow, literally doesn't leave my side, and my dogs are never out at night barking. I was in bed with the dogs by 8:30 that particular evening, which I tell the couple. Finally, I'm just like, call the city, I don't care, but you need to leave my property. My dog follows them, barking at them to the edge of my driveway, and then stops and turns around when he hits the neighbor's yard. I was so annoyed, I was just telling him, "Good boy," as he barked them away. The thing that really irked me about this situation was that they never introduced themselves. Literally, they could have just come over and said, "Hey, we're your neighbors, and your puppy got near our pond. Can you make sure she doesn't do that again?" Simple. I checked in with the next door neighbors about it, and they said it took about 15 years to have a pleasant conversation with this couple. When I take the dogs out now and they're gardening, they just glare at me. But maybe in 15 years, well, they'll probably be dead and gone. Well, who do you agree with? OP or her neighbors? Please let us know. I'm just thinking about that creek that runs through their neighborhood with the yards. It sounds really nice, to be honest. Ruined a bad roommate's life. So I moved into a 4-bedroom uni house. I knew 2 of my housemates. Let's call them Abby and Ben. Due to unfortunate circumstances, our previously planned housemate didn't live with us, so we found a new one, Chloe. Chloe is a horrible housemate. This became apparent when they never paid any bills or rent on time, smokes like a chimney inside against our agreement, leaves home for a few days, leaving a big pile of washing up for us to do, including our pots and pans, scream gaming on their laptop all the way till 5 a.m. Walls are thin, just to name a few things. Basically, they suck. So it gets till about 4 months in. We cannot stand Chloe. So we have a house meeting. Basically, we sit there and try to explain how we would prefer they don't scream at their laptop, I assume gaming, until 5 a.m. every night as all of us get up early. Everything we bring up, Chloe denied it. We have each lent Chloe a month's rent and bills too, and Chloe hasn't paid any of us back, over $1,000 between us. Chloe denied it, saying, "I don't owe you." This point, me, Abby, and Ben are all pretty upset. Then, a few weeks later was a Saturday night, and being students, Abby and Ben and me invited friends around for pre-drinks. We asked Chloe first, and they said they'd be out, so it was fine. Turns out, they finished work early, so they came home and were shocked to find people there. Went up to their room. They kept coming down and turning the music down. It wasn't even loud in the first place. Chloe got so angry and threw my speaker out the window. I didn't see Chloe do it, but loads of people told me so. I had had enough. I went to get my speaker back, and Chloe came out with me to my surprise. And as Chloe left in full visibility of me, she keyed my car parked on the driveway. I got up with my speaker and shouted as she walked off. Luckily, we have an automatic light on the side of the house, and a car was driving down my road at the time, and the driver said they had a dash cam and probably caught it out the window to me. I stopped shouting in disbelief and gave him my email address, went about my night and joined the party. When it was time to leave, a lot of us hadn't finished our drinks, so left them on the kitchen table and left. When we got back the next day and had sobered up in the morning, we found all the drinks had been taken, along with the speaker, some headphones, and my laptop. Now I was really mad. The revenge. I logged into my housemate's laptop on my email. This guy had pulled through, sent me a small clip of Chloe keying the car along with several close-up stills showing the key in contact. I first confronted Chloe, asking if they knew where my stuff was, while Abby and Ben secretly recorded on their phones. Things got heated, and they looked like they were going to fight me. I'm a big guy, 6'4", and I'm really not scared. I'm basically just upsetting Chloe. Chloe then swung her fist at me a few times, making contact. I didn't fight back. I put my hands and arms over my head and face. Chloe then stomps off, thinking they won. Let me remind you, Abby and Ben were recording. I call the police. They show up. I basically say I have a good reason to believe Chloe stole my drinks and other possessions. They go up and knock on Chloe's door. Go away! They can't go in without a search warrant. I file a report about assault and the things stolen relating the two. The police are very nice and basically tell me how to fill it in. They come back the next day with a warrant for Chloe's arrest for assault and battery. They then search her room and find all the stolen bottles, my headphones, which clearly were mine as they were only paired with my phone, and my laptop and damaged speaker. I sued Chloe and won. I had indisputable evidence along with witnesses for all of the events. I got around $3,000 for the car, speaker, and rent that Chloe owed us, and an additional $5,000. Chloe went to prison for resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, assault, destruction of property, theft, and battery. Chloe still had to pay rent for her room, which we used as a gym. Have you ever had a horrible roommate? If so, what did they do wrong? Please let us know. Horrible roommate? Try living with Reddit boy over here. Am I the jerk for refusing baby items from another pregnant family member? My husband and I, both 30, are expecting our first child at the end of this year. A month after we announced our pregnancy, my husband's 17-year-old cousin announces hers. This is not a jealousy issue. If anything, her pregnancy has taken us out of the spotlight of important family happenings to our relief. We are quiet people, and while we are excited and hopeful, this is our first baby to make it this far after several miscarriages, so we're trying to stay calm through this, just in case. Us being the way we are, we do not do baby showers. Thanks to lockdown, I have a solid excuse to avoid them. We do not ask for gifts. We enjoy being able to quietly take care of ourselves. The cousin has been going on about her pregnancy as many people do, having family gatherings, baby showers with over 30 people, etc., and has received a lot of gifts. This is where the issue takes place. My mother-in-law calls every couple of days to tell me that the cousin has an extra tub or extra boxes of diapers, etc., and that she wants to give them to me. I want what I picked out for my baby, not someone else's leftovers. I have the means to buy my son what I want him to have, and if I needed someone else's charity to raise a kid, I would not have gotten pregnant in the first place. I've been politely turning these gifts down. Knowing the way my mother-in-law is, I will eventually have to be firm and tell her how I feel. You do not want to hear about the guilt trip she put me through after I denied her to throw us a baby shower. If I say to her what I said above about the leftover gifts, will I be the jerk? Edit. Whoa, guys, thank you. You really made me see how entitled and jerky I sound. Pregnancy hormones are something else, and I truly believed that what I said above was perfectly normal. I will accept the gifts. I will be more open towards my in-laws, and I will try to get closer to his cousin and help her in any way she needs. My son needs his family, and he's not going to have one if I let my antisocial behavior get in the way. I rarely post to Reddit, and I thought for a long time before I posted to this sub. I expected no one to respond. When I opened up my inbox to see 30 strangers calling me names, it really helped me get that ego in check. Thank you. Edit 2. Good morning. I eventually had to go to bed, and by to bed, I mean stare at the ceiling and think about my life decisions and who the heck I think I am. I wish I could reply to everyone that has commented, but I've stared at my phone more in the past 12 hours than I have in the last month, and all of my eyeballs hurt. I want to thank you all for commenting. The more harsh critics who had to lay down the hard truths to those few who boldly stuck up for me among a sea of you're the jerks. To the you're the jerks still pouring in by the minute, 10-4 y'all, I know. Thanks to all of your feedback and advice, I have learned how to deal with this situation and situations in the future. I will be more considerate of others' feelings and be more open to including all family and friends when they show interest in my life. And Lord, think about what Reddit would say before I open my mouth. Well, what do you think? Was OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. I'll take some of that baby stuff if you don't want it. I haven't told him yet, but Mr. Reddit and I are expecting. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Boss asks me to report 100% of vehicle damage. I used to work as a supervisor of a security team at a large industrial facility. I had a good relationship with the manager, we'll call him Dave, until he appointed his friend as a middle manager, we'll call him Steve, between the supervisors and himself. I did not have a good relationship with Steve at all, and suddenly Dave started rejecting ideas, suggestions, and requests out of hand. The friendly guy that I used to go and have sit-down chats with regularly became standoffish and outwardly hostile at times. The staff all noticed this as well and would frequently comment that they didn't know what I'd done to Dave and Steve, but it was clear that I was being bullied all of a sudden. It's entirely fair to say that I couldn't do right for doing wrong all the time, and every little thing I did or did not do resulted in a lengthy email conversation with Dave and Steve. There's a lot I could add to this, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to move on to the point of my story. The site we had to patrol was about 5 square miles, so vehicles were provided so that we could patrol effectively and carry equipment and personnel to required locations. Part of my duties at the start of the shift were ensuring that the vehicles had not been damaged on the previous shift and that all vehicles had the required levels of equipment in them. The first patrol went out the moment our shift started, and as this was a regulatory requirement, could not be delayed or skipped. This was the start of a night shift, and so it was dark, very dark. We had maglite torches, but after 6 years of use, they weren't exactly brilliant. I didn't find any new damage, and so recorded that the vehicle was okay, and recorded their mileage on our check sheets. The next night when I came in, I had a very angry in tone email from Dave demanding to know why my team had damaged one of the vehicles on the previous night. Apparently, the vehicle looked as if it had been reversed into a wall. I immediately went to check the vehicle and found 2 extremely small divots in the rear bumper. I found them not by looking, but by feeling the bumper. I simply could not see them at all using the light available to me at the time. I then went and asked all my team, and all of them insisted they had not even used the vehicle. I went and checked the vehicle sheet rounds and found, true to my team's word, that the mileage on the day shift sheets was identical to the night shift sheets. The vehicle had not been moved. I sent an email back to Dave informing him that the vehicle hadn't been used by us and apologized for missing the damage. However, lighting had made that extremely difficult. This was my last shift before my scheduled days off, so I was certain that Steve would be pushing Dave to punish me for something by the time I got back. Sure enough, on my first day back in, I was summoned to Dave's office for what we British politely refer to as a bollocking. Dave insisted that he could see the damage in the dark and could actually spot it from about 10 meters away. For context, all of my guys had been shown the damage and all of them, without fail, had said, "Where? when I pointed it out at close range. Not only that, but there was now additional damage that I hadn't spotted and my team was also now responsible for. Luckily, my boss had included a photograph of the damage I had missed. In the photo, I saw no scratch. For Dave and Steve, however, this was good enough to be punitive towards me and my team and told me that unless the culprit was found and named, I would be held personally responsible and would have to pay the insurance excess to get it fixed. Dave also insisted that the lighting was more than sufficient to spot the damage on the vehicles. I told Dave that this was ridiculous and he couldn't enforce financial penalties on a vehicle that had, again, not been used by my team. Dave was insistent though. It was my job to report 100% of the damage on the vehicles or I would be held responsible. And at this point, something clicked in my mind, and luckily, Dave decided to back up his instruction with an email that Steve was CC'd into. The next shift, I refused to allow my team members to use the vehicles until they had all been fully checked. Inside, outside, underneath, mechanically, and equipment levels. Each vehicle took about 2 hours. I photographed every single small bit of damage that I found, no matter how insignificant or whether it had been reported previously. Remember, the instruction was to report 100% of damage, not 100% of unreported damage, and sent it all in an email to Dave with a text description of the nature and location of the damage for each photograph. There were about 162 photographs in total. The first patrol could not be skipped, and so I had to send out my officers on foot to patrol the site. This meant that the site patrol took nearly 3 hours and was not available to fulfill other duties afterwards. It's worth noting at this point that my team were also seeing this as a direct attack on them rather than just me, so were fully supportive of the measures I was taking. This resulted in the site shift manager demanding answers, to which I was able to tell the shift manager of Dave's instructions and why I was having to send officers out on foot. I had, and still do have, a great relationship with all of the site shift managers, and so, while he was frustrated, he understood the predicament I had been put in, especially when the instructions were shown to him in black and white. This resulted in a financial penalty for my company. Dave was off the next day, and so I did the exact same thing again, with the exact same amount of photographs, but all taken again on a fresh inspection. The night shift after, I came to work to find Dave waiting in the office for me. I was allowed to finish my handover with the off-going supervisor before Dave shut the door and refused to let me leave before he had discussed why he had received multiple emails, over 800 megabytes in total. I didn't compress or reduce the size of the photos, and how the company had received a financial penalty and the regulatory body were coming to speak to him. I reminded him that he had demanded that I report 100% of the damage on the vehicles and that this had taken time. I couldn't allow any member of the team to use any vehicle until they had been checked, as there could be financial penalties involved. Dave frustratedly pointed out that many of the pics were too dark to see anything anyway, and so most of the photographs were pointless. I apologized for the lighting, but pointed out that he said the lighting was more than sufficient to spot any damage, and so he should be able to easily see the damage I had reported. Dave insisted that I had deliberately misinterpreted his instructions and he would be taking it to a disciplinary. I informed him that this was no problem. If he could just let me know the date and time, I would inform my union rep, who had been fully appraised of the situation and was 100% behind my suggestion that I report every single tidy bit of damage on the vehicles. Dave was ultimately left with no choice but to drop any attempts to discipline me and left Steve to deal with me from that point on. Steve then took up the role of disciplinarian for the next 3 months until I left the job. However, every time he tried, I was able to shut it all down due to briefings with my union rep. I left the job in February of 2019 and still to this day receive complaints from members of staff who remain there about how terrible the job has gotten due to Dave and Steve. I don't work here. Yes, you do. You're now backstage security for Yellow Card. About 6 years ago on a Saturday night, I was hitting up a concert with some friends. Now, this venue had 2 parts. The main part was a restaurant/bar with a big outdoor venue that could fit about 1,500 people, and across the street was the second venue that could fit about 1,000. I got confused as to which venue I was heading to, accidentally parked at the main venue, saw my mistake, and walked across the street to the intended venue. Now, I had worked late that day and couldn't go home and change, so I was wearing a black polo shirt and black pants. After my concert ends, I walk back across the street to the main venue where I had parked. I try to take a shortcut around the building, only to find myself blocked by temp fences and barricades. I look to the left and see a couple of tour buses, walk towards those, and manage to walk in between them. I find myself in a loading/staging area with some hospitality tents and people walking around, while I'm hearing a band playing really close by. I grab a snack and a drink and ask a guy how to leave, and he points to the right. The only way to the right is this long ramp that leads around the building. So I walk up and follow it around the building, literally to the side of the stage where the band Yellowcard was playing live. I'm talking 10 feet away from me, tops. As I walk up, somewhat confused as to the scene in front of me, this woman with a clipboard and a headset walks up, and Yella asks me where my lanyard is. I kinda shrug and said, I don't have one. She gets upset and says, don't move. She's back in 5 seconds with a lanyard with an all-access pass and tells me to put it on. I try telling her I don't think I'm supposed to be here, but she snaps and tells me to shut it. She says to stay right there to guard the ramp to make sure no one accidentally tries to come that way, literally what I had just done, and walks away. So I spend the next 30 minutes on the side of their stage while they finish their set. After their encore, I head back to the hospitality area, grab some food, have a few drinks, mingle with some folks, etc. After a while, I see headset lady walking around, so I walk up to her, hand her the lanyard, thank her for the drinks and the show, and leave. Would I be the jerk if I asked my husband to return my Christmas present? So yesterday, I, 28 female, asked my husband, 39 male, to pick up the new Christmas tree I ordered from a nearby hardware store. When my husband came home, he asked me to go upstairs. He had gotten my Christmas gift and he didn't want me to see it. He hid it in the basement by throwing a blanket over it, but admitted that the size and shape would probably give it away when I had to go down to do laundry. It could only be one thing, a big box from the hardware store, a microwave. When I went to do laundry today, I could tell it's definitely a microwave, and a white one at that. I hate white appliances. All my other ones are black or stainless when possible. I had stupidly mentioned several weeks ago that I wanted to look into getting a new microwave in the summer. Our current one is like 660 to 700 watts at best, and slow, but otherwise working fine. I really enjoy spending time comparing models and features and finding the perfect one and trying then to wait for a sale when I shop for things. It's almost like a game. A microwave is a very practical gift, and I feel bad, but I want to ask him to return it before he loses the receipt if he hasn't already. I know he didn't put much thought into it, probably saw a display while he was waiting at the customer service desk for the tree and bought it on a whim. I feel like if he had at least gotten the black model, I could say he was thinking of what I might like a little bit. I don't really want to be stuck with a microwave that I hate again for another 6 years. I've been waiting all this time to be able to pick one I really liked. Also, Christmas is the only time of year that I just would really like to get a nice treat that isn't necessarily practical. Like, I would be perfectly happy with a couple of bath bombs, or a nice scented candle, or maybe some chocolate. It's not a money thing at all. If anything, I feel like the microwave was probably too expensive. So, would I be the jerk if I asked him to return it, or should I just suck it up and pretend that I love it? Update. I talked to my husband once he got home, and I told him I appreciated that he was thinking a microwave would make things easier and faster for me, but I needed to have one that would work well for our family and kitchen since we would have it for a long time. He wanted to show me the microwave in detail, so we went down to look at the box. Turned out, he mixed up the cubic size and the watts, thinking a bigger cubic foot was strongest, so he accidentally bought an absolutely huge microwave. It's actually too big to even fit on the shelf our kitchen has, because we have a fairly limited kitchen space. He was pretty embarrassed, but I told him no big deal. But I would like to pick out one together with him, and it could be our gift for the house, not my specific Christmas gift. He agreed, and all is well between us, so I'm glad I decided to bring it up. Thank you. Rude actress tells me off. Whilst I was at uni, over 10 years ago now, I worked part-time in a popular clothing/accessory store. It was over Christmas, so really busy. The store is tiny, so gets full quickly. I'm on the tills and notice an older, very glamorous-looking lady waiting in the queue. She looks irritated and keeps looking at my coworker and I, as if to say, hurry up. The queue is very long, but we don't mess around and are pretty quick even if wrapping gifts. She gets to my till. I smile and say, hello, thanks for waiting, politely, as always, and proceed to scan and bag her items. I recognize her now that she's in front of me, but don't let on obviously. She's not super famous, but I know who she is, as I used to watch the soap she was on back in the day. Anyway, she's not interested in talking to me or even smiling, so I just get on with it. I say bye and she walks off. I call the next customer over, and before I've even had a chance to finish saying hello, I hear the beep 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 of the door alarms going off. The actress lady marches back over to me, cuts off the current customer, and says, "You have failed to remove the security tags." I say, "Sorry, although I'm certain I did remove them already. I check the items, then tell her there's no tags on them. I suggest it could be something else in her other bags, but she ignores me and storms off. I carry on serving my customer, but the alarm goes off again. Actress lady marches back, looking furious, and says,
"Really? This is ridiculous. Why haven't you removed them? If it happens again, I will be asking for a refund."
She barely looks at me and has such a horrible attitude. I'm a bit embarrassed now as there's a massive queue of people just staring. I take the items out of her bag, and yes, all the tags are off as they were to begin with. I'm getting a bit annoyed at her rudeness and quite curtly tell her, there are no tags on these items. Look, I've checked twice. The alarms are being set off from something in your other bags. At this point, another coworker comes over and asks the lady if she can look in her bags just to check what's setting the alarms off. The lady does not even answer her, but just makes a kind of huffing noise and thrusts her bags out to the coworker. Coworker checks her bags and looks in another store's bag. Lo and behold, there is a security tag left on something she purchased. Coworker double checks by putting it through the alarms. The lady, who's still stood in front of the till, kind of raises her chin and looks at me. I just gave her a big smug smile, raising my eyebrows, and carry on talking to the current customer, saying, "Thank you for being so patient." Rude lady doesn't even say sorry, thank you, or bye. She just storms out as if it was our fault another store left the security tag on. Am I the jerk for telling my parents their pets aren't welcome in my home? My husband is very allergic to all forms of animal fur, dandruff, and saliva. If he's around them, his eyes swell, get watery and itchy, his nose starts to run, and he has a hard time breathing. He's done all of the allergy shots, takes allergy meds every day, he just simply cannot tolerate animals. He's been this way since he was a kid, it'll never change. My parents give literally zero hoots. If we go visit them, they say,
"Just tell him to take an extra pill and get over it."
He never complains. He suffers in silence, and they make constant comments about how he's being antisocial. No, he can't breathe and feels like crap. Then I end up miserable because he snores so bad when he has a flare-up that I can't sleep. We're supposed to be hosting Thanksgiving, and my mother dropped on us that they plan on bringing their pets with them. I put my foot down and said, no, you will not bring them and make my husband miserable in our home. He tolerates it when he goes to your home because they're your pets. We don't expect them to kennel them or anything when we visit, but you'll respect our boundaries in our home. I was shocked. She thought it was perfectly acceptable to just state, we're bringing the animals, knowing he is very allergic. It wasn't even an ask, it was a tell. She's now decided that they will no longer be coming because their pets aren't welcome in our home. So Reddit, am I the jerk here? Edit. My husband has tolerated my parents' shenanigans for my sake. I was raised to obey your parents above all things. If they said we had to stay with them, that was that. It was non-negotiable. The last time we visited, last Christmas, we stayed at my brother's house because he asked me to stay there instead of at my parents'. It took many sessions with my therapist to stand up to them. This was a huge step for me to go against their wishes and do what I wanted for myself and my husband. It caused a giant fight between us and my parents. We haven't visited since and don't plan to. My sister demanded we share my daughter. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday, and to be honest, still can't understand what my sister was thinking. A little backstory. My sister and I had to share everything as kids. Not to mention, I was forced to be her and our younger brother's second mother, but I'll put that in a different post. For some of my childhood, I was happy to share things with my sister. Sweets, snacks, toys, the normal kid things. There's 4 years between us. I'm the oldest, and as you can probably guess, when I reached my teen years, I wanted my own things and to spend time alone. Nope, she wanted me to do everything with her. I could barely spend 10 minutes in the bathroom before she would start banging on the door. Unfortunately, when I was around 15, my siblings and I were taken into foster care. We were separated from our brother, which was difficult for both of us, and for a while, I didn't mind my sister wanting to spend all her time with me. Shortly after my 16th birthday, I wanted to have my own space and things that are, well, mine. She would argue with me over not sharing my stuff, and of course, typical sibling fights and yelling happened almost every other day. We sort of grew out of our sibling squabbles over the years, but she kinda developed a "the world owes me" attitude, which drove me crazy. I did my best to hold in my frustrations, but I'm human, and sometimes I kinda snapped. A couple years after my daughter was born, my sister and I weren't really talking much because of her selfish attitude towards me spending most of my time and income on my daughter. During one of the times we were on good terms, she was over for the weekend and everything was okay. Until a conversation led to her telling me she was going to take my daughter for a week because she wanted to spend time with her because it was her turn. I said, not gonna happen. She's my daughter, not a doll or a pet we share. She gets mad and starts yelling. I told her to leave, and she argues how she had parental rights, and social services will force me to allow her to take my daughter whenever she wants. I laughed, told her to get out and don't come back. Honestly, I don't know if she seriously thought that it was her right to have my daughter. I've got plenty of other insane stories about my family, which I may post about at some point. Thanks for reading my crazy story. You probably haven't seen this video, so come watch this one next and we'll see you when you get there.
And huge shout out to our newest official channel members, Chris Michaels and Chris Schleiger. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.